In 1876, along the Little Bighorn River, a battle unfolded that would become one of America's most devastating defeats. But this isn't just history, it's the story told by those who saw it firsthand. This is Eyewitness to Disaster, the last stand of Custer. Like you've never heard. Stay with us to uncover the untold truths of that fateful day. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to help support our community. The year is 1876. The United States sends its famous officer, George Custer, to suppress Sitting Bull's resistance in Montana. As Custer reaches a ridge, he notices far more encampments than expected. Undeterred, he smiles, tips his hat, and cries out, "Hurrah, lads, we've got them!" Unaware, he is nearing one of the largest Native American war camps ever assembled, with no backup on the way. Within hours, his entire immediate force is annihilated. Custer's name becomes associated not with victory, but one of the most devastating military defeats in American history. How did this disaster unfold? This is the story of Custer's last stand. George Custer, born to a farmer in Ohio, was fiercely ambitious and yearned for fame and a place in history. As a boy, he was smart, bold, and proud. Entering West Point in 1857, he accumulated 726 demerits for misbehavior, among the highest totals recorded. Still, his teachers and fellow cadets saw in him a talented soldier despite his rebellious nature. The Civil War gave Custer his chance to prove himself. A brilliant commander, he earned many victories, always leading from the front lines. Known for rushing headlong into danger where others hesitated, he never asked his men to do what he wouldn't do himself. His soldiers adored him, and impressed superiors promoted him to one of the youngest brevet generals in U.S. history at just 23. The press dubbed him the Boy General. Before long, everyone recognized the daring General Custer with his flamboyant style and long golden hair. On July 3, 1863, Custer and his men played a crucial role in holding the Union line at Gettysburg. Leading the charge in full officer's uniform, he attacked Confederate forces at a decisive moment, helping to shift the battle in the Union's favor. His outstanding service continued until the war concluded. The table where Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox was later gifted to Custer's wife Elizabeth, accompanied by a note stating that no one had contributed more to the surrender than her husband. After the war, Custer was assigned to command the 7th Cavalry against the Plains Indians, a posting he disliked, feeling it offered little chance for glory. It wasn't until 1868 that he regained a moment in the spotlight. As America expanded westward, the Black Hills, sacred to the Sioux, became a target. An April 1868 treaty at Fort Laramie granted the Sioux rights to the Black Hills if they ceased attacks and remained on reservations. Yet the U.S. government had no real intent to honor the treaty. The Black Hills held great value, and officials expected settler pressure would force Sioux violations. Most Sioux, unaware of this deceit, accepted the agreement. Chief Sitting Bull, a Lakota leader, refused. He believed U.S. intrusion was inevitable and resistance was necessary to protect their way of life. Sitting Bull was Custer's foil. Where Custer was rash and impulsive, Sitting Bull was calm and measured, his name reflecting his tendency to think before acting. A spiritual figure and war leader, he claimed visions from the Great Spirit that guided his opposition to American forces. He united numerous Lakota alongside Cheyenne and smaller tribes, forming a nomadic warrior coalition under the guidance of his ally, Gaul. Together, they conducted raids against U.S. settlements and rival groups such as the Crow and Ricara after the Fort Laramie Treaty. To halt Sitting Bull's resistance, the U.S. required a bold and capable commander. They chose George Custer to lead. In November 1868, Custer commanded the 7th Cavalry in an attack on a Cheyenne village in Oklahoma. At dawn on November 27th, he charged into the camp along the Washita River, launching a surprise strike. The assault resulted in 103 Cheyenne deaths, including warriors, women, and children. Custer's deputy, Major Joel Elliott, took 20 men to pursue fleeing Cheyenne, while Custer finished operations in the camp. Custer regarded the raid as a great victory. Yet his ambition caused serious errors. First, the village belonged to Black Kettle, a Cheyenne chief who sought peace with the U.S., making future talks nearly impossible. Second, it was one of several villages by the river, and news spread fast, forcing Custer to withdraw quickly. Third, Elliott and his men were surrounded and killed by Cheyenne from nearby camps. Unaware of this at first, Custer did not wait for them. Many in the 7th Cavalry blamed him for Elliott's death. Captain Frederick Benteen, a harsh critic, wrote a letter condemning Custer that leaked to the press, angering him. Although Benteen remained under Custer's command, their hostility continued. The Washita victory boosted Custer's fame, recasting him as a hero of the American West. Over the following years, he led the 7th Cavalry against Native American tribes. In 1873, they settled permanently at Fort Abraham Lincoln in Dakota Territory, a better position to challenge Sitting Bull's resistance. Two important figures then joined Custer's story. Major Marcus Reno became a key officer. Volatile and a heavy drinker, Reno found Custer arrogant and intolerable, as did Benteen. Thankfully, Custer surrounded himself with loyal supporters to counterbalance critics. His brothers Tom and Boston and his brother-in-law, Lieutenant James Calhoun, joined him. Even his wife Elizabeth moved to Fort Abraham Lincoln to be near him. Custer's allies extended beyond white Americans. In 1873, a scout named Bloody Knife, half Sioux and half Oroker, joined his unit and became a close friend. Not all Native Americans supported Sitting Bull. Bloody Knife held a personal grudge against him due to past mistreatment by Sitting Bull and Gaul. As a child, Gaul had bullied Bloody Knife, and their feud became deadly when Gaul later murdered Bloody Knife's brothers and son in different raids. Bloody Knife nearly killed Gaul in one confrontation, intensifying their hatred. Custer was the clear choice to lead an 1874 expedition into the Black Hills. Officially, the mission was to find a suitable fort location to counter Sitting Bull's defiance. In reality, it aimed to confirm gold deposits and incite a wave of settlers. The expedition was as much a publicity stunt as it was a military venture. With little resistance, Custer spent more time hunting alongside his brothers and Bloody Knife than engaging in conflict. Photographers and journalists on the expedition shared stories and images showcasing Custer's daring frontier exploits and the discovery of gold. This triggered a gold rush that brought around 15,000 settlers pouring into the Black Hills by late 1875. Officially, since these settlers arrived independently, the U.S. government claimed no violation of the Fort Laramie Treaty had occurred. Unofficially, President Ulysses S. Grant supported the influx, waiting for Sioux opposition to justify seizing the Black Hills outright. In September 1875, the government made a final attempt to purchase the Black Hills from the Sioux. Sitting Bull's warnings about American invasion proved accurate, and the Sioux refused the offer. In response, President Grant issued an ultimatum. Any Lakota or Cheyenne not on U.S. reservations by January 31, 1876, would be considered hostile. Issued in November 1875, amid a brutal winter, the order was nearly impossible to meet and designed to provoke the Sioux and Cheyenne. The expedition to pursue Sitting Bull and hostile forces left Fort Abraham Lincoln on May 17, 1876. General Alfred Terry, an ally of Custer's, had overall command. Scouts reported Sitting Bull's followers along the Yellowstone River, near the confluence of the Powder Tongue, Rosebud, and Little Bighorn tributaries. Terry and Custer would lead the main force westward along the Yellowstone from Dakota Territory. Colonel John Gibbon's troops would approach from Montana in the west, while General George Crook advanced from Wyoming in the south, aiming to encircle the Native Americans. Custer treated the campaign as another adventure, frequently breaking off to hunt or explore. Terry found Custer's actions frustrating, a feeling shared by his brothers, Major Reno and Captain Benteen. Reno was relieved when Terry sent him to scout the Rosebud River, where he discovered Sitting Bull's trail. Upon returning with this information, Reno was criticized by Custer for not pursuing it more aggressively. But there was no time for arguments. Terry divided his forces once more. He planned to join Gibbon's Montana troops, who would advance down the Bighorn River from the north, while Custer would head south along the Rosebud Trail. If Custer located Sitting Bull, he was to move south and await Terry and Gibbons. Given Custer's reputation, expecting him to wait was unrealistic.
"Custer, don't be greedy. Save some for us," they warned.
"No," he replied, "I will not." The Americans were correct about Sitting Bull's whereabouts. After Grant's ultimatum, Sitting Bull gathered thousands more warriors, aware the U.S. forces were coming. Strength in numbers was their sole chance to survive, as failure meant losing their last summer as free nomads. His call drew about 8,000 people, including between 2,000 and 3,000 warriors. Gaul remained his trusted advisor, joined by rising leaders like Crazy Horse, a young, fearless Oglala Lakota warrior who also claimed visions granting him great power. On June 17, 1876, Crazy Horse engaged Crook's Wyoming forces along the Rosebud River. Leading 1,500 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors, he launched a bold attack on Crook's similarly sized army. Though Native American forces usually needed superior numbers for open battles, Crazy Horse's multi-directional tactics kept the Americans off balance. Only with the help of Crow and Shoshone scouts was Crook able to retreat after losing 30 men. Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull achieved a remarkable victory. Shaken, Crook reported the battle to his superiors, but did not inform Custer or Terry. As American forces neared, Sitting Bull moved his people to a new camp in the valley of the Greasy Grass along the Little Bighorn River. There, they held the Sundance ceremony, during which Sitting Bull reportedly had a vision of American soldiers falling into their camp, a sign of impending victory. Meanwhile, Custer's men followed Sitting Bull's trail from the Rosebud toward the Little Bighorn. Unaware of Crook's defeat, Bloody Knife and other scouts noted the trail suggested a much larger Native American force, possibly numbering thousands. Bloody Knife warned Custer to wait for Terry and Gibbons, cautioning the enemy's numbers could be overwhelming. Just after dawn on June 25, 1876, Custer's scouts ascended hills east of the Little Bighorn and spotted smoke rising from Sitting Bull's camp. For Custer, this was his moment of glory. He commanded 647 men across 12 companies. One stayed behind to guard supplies while the rest prepared for battle. Custer took 5 companies to attack from the north. Major Reno led 3 to strike from the south with Bloody Knife scouting, and Captain Benteen took 3 to circle south around Reno and join the fight on the camp's western flank. Despite mistrusting Reno and Benteen, Custer depended on them, supported by his loyal brothers Tom and Boston, plus brother-in-law Lieutenant Calhoun. Moving north, Custer stayed hidden behind hills until the last moment. Around 3 p.m., he reached a ridge overlooking the camp, seeing thousands of tents spread across more than 3 miles, far more than expected. He quickly wrote orders. "Benteen, come on. Big village, but be quick. Bring packs." A rider was sent to Benteen. Impatient to act, Custer waved his hat and shouted, "Hurrah, lads, we've got them," then charged down. To the south, Reno's 150 men crossed the Little Bighorn and neared the camp. Bloody Knife and fellow scouts encountered Lakota and Cheyenne warriors on the outskirts, alerting the camp. Sitting Bull and Gaul, positioned in the southern sector, faced Reno's attack first. Reno, facing stiff resistance, ordered his men to dismount and form a skirmish line. Bullets tore through the camp, striking warriors, women, and children. Sitting Bull initially tried to protect his people, sending his nephew and another warrior to negotiate. Both negotiators were killed. When a bullet struck Sitting Bull's horse, he exclaimed, "They have shot my favorite horse. It is as if they have shot me. Attack them!" Gaul and Crazy Horse led a fierce counterattack, overwhelming Reno's unprepared troops. Survivors later said Reno's drinking impaired his decision-making. As Reno and Bloody Knife planned their next move, a bullet struck Bloody Knife instantly, splattering Reno with blood and brain matter. Shocked, Reno ordered a retreat. "Any of you who wish to escape, follow me." Discipline broke down as men fled chaotically across the river, abandoning horses and weapons while scrambling up steep banks. Native warriors fired from the opposite side, cutting down many. To the southeast, Benteen heard the commotion and hurried back. On a hilltop, Reno and survivors struggled to climb up, begging, "For God's sake, Benteen, hold your command and help me. I've lost half my men." Benteen asked, "Where is Custer?" Reno had no answer. Recalling past frustrations, Benteen muttered, "It's another Custer affair." He believed Custer had abandoned them for glory, as with Elliott. But gunfire from Custer's direction indicated otherwise. Benteen received Custer's order to join, but stayed to support Reno. For 2 hours they held Reno Hill until Custer's gunfire ceased. One of Benteen's captains grew frustrated, investigated, and found the grim aftermath. The exact details of Custer's last stand remain unclear, but this is the best reconstruction. Custer gathered his men on a hill later named Calhoun Hill to assess their situation and await Benteen. He likely planned to capture hostages to force a surrender, as he had done before, by moving into the camp. Leading from the front, Custer's advance initially struck fear into the camp, with Sitting Bull later confessing, "We thought we were whipped." Yet hidden Cheyenne and Lakota warriors fired from across the river. Crazy Horse and others, breaking away from Reno, charged to confront Custer. Underestimating the enemy's strength, Custer's men retreated up the hill. Lieutenant Calhoun's company took position on Calhoun Hill, while Custer, his brothers, and most troops fell back to Last Stand Hill. Half of Calhoun's men died before they reached their spot. Crazy Horse's mounted warriors surrounded the Americans as the main native force pressed up the slopes. Calhoun's position was overrun, and all were killed. Seeing that Benteen wasn't coming, Custer faced thousands of warriors overwhelming his roughly 200 men. A storm of arrows and bullets rained down, with some native fighters accidentally striking their own in the chaos. Sitting Bull later said his warriors described Custer standing like a sheaf of horn with all the ears falling around it. This was likely his final stand. When Custer's gunfire fell silent, Benteen and Reno, with about 400 men, were pinned down on Reno Hill. They withstood attacks through the night of June 25th. On June 26th, scouts spotted Terry and Gibbon approaching, prompting Sitting Bull to withdraw his people. Terry arrived and asked, "Where's Custer?" The bodies of 210 men from 5 companies were found, some scalped or mutilated. Benteen, examining a body with 2 bullet wounds, one to the chest, one to the head, whispered, "My God, it's him," confirming Custer's death. On July 6, 1876, news of Custer's defeat arrived at Fort Abraham Lincoln. Within days, the Little Bighorn disaster dominated headlines nationwide. Just 2 days earlier, on July 4, 1876, America had celebrated its centennial with great pride, honoring heroes like Custer, viewed as taming savage Indians. His death stunned many Americans who believed in their unstoppable march of progress. Some blamed Custer's recklessness, claiming his thirst for glory was his downfall. Others faulted Benteen and Reno for ignoring Custer's orders. Few recognized the skill and determination of Sitting Bull, Gaul, and Crazy Horse, who had defeated one of America's finest commanders in open battle. Sitting Bull's coalition had demonstrated its strength and prepared for the next move from the U.S. As the smoke cleared and silence fell over the battlefield, the full story of Custer's last stand remained shrouded in mystery. hidden in the memories of those who faced impossible odds. What truly happened on that fateful day? Were there moments of heroism yet untold, or decisions that sealed their fate? The eyewitness accounts we uncovered today only scratched the surface. Now we want to hear from you. What do you believe was the turning point? Could history have unfolded differently? Share your thoughts below, because this story is far from over.